Oh, okay, okay. See.
The
Okay.
one that sits directly behind the house is Anillo.
Okay.
Well, no, Anillo was that, yeah. I think that's why I remember him because he had a sign that said welding, custom welding, that I talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Okay.
why the name's there.
All right. Okay, so. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So we're back on to the regular city council meeting. We just finished the closed session, and there were no decisions made. So we are moving on to the item number 5, which is consent calendar. A, consider City of Avenal successor agency approval of minutes for June 11, 2020. And B, consider financial statements and warrants for May. Is there any questions, comments, or changes for the consent calendar? Okay. If not, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent calendar.
We have a first. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Very good. First and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Preciado. Councilman Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Woolley.
Aye.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye. Okay.
If we can wait a moment for Councilman Preciado to respond. I think there's a little bit of a delay.
Councilman Preciado.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. With that, we're moving on to item number 6, which is mayor and council member successor agency. Is that terms or terms for consideration on 6? I've seen it several times.
Items.
Oh, items. There you go.
The I is missing.
Yeah, okay. 6A, COVID-19 pandemic, discussion regarding wearing masks, social distancing, business, and number of customers allowed in stores at the same time, and other related issues. Okay. You know, did you want to get started with that, Ms. Mel, or?
There seems to be a concern, and I think most of us share, because we want to be safe, we want others to be safe. And, I would like to commend staff. I think with the staff that we have, they've done a great job to get the information out, working through the EOC Center and also through their departments to do what they can to provide the information needed so the community knows what stage we're in, what's expected of the community and also the businesses. But there was a concern raised with a few businesses that seem to not be requiring masks, and that also there were possibly too many people in one area with no masks on in a commercial business. So I think maybe the time is to possibly discuss what we have done so far, and if council wanted to go an extra step. This is basically a discussion item that has been brought forward. I don't have a lot of information on it. I can only tell you what I have heard, and I know what Tony and Lupe have experienced, but again, I want to commend them for the great job they've done with the resources they have. Tony and Lupe have put together actually what they have done thus far in their contact with the businesses in the community. They have provided the flyers that they have provided to the community. And what we have done as a city is providing masks. We're looking at distributing hand sanitizer. We just have to obtain the bottles to be able to do that. And just education. A lot of it is education. So again, I would like to open it up for discussion, Mayor Ovalle, if you'd like to open for discussion, that'd be great.
Yes.
We're here to answer questions.
Uh-huh.
We can explain what has been done to date, whatever council would like.
Okay, and thank you. Yes, I do want to get started with this. And just to recount, let's say on June the 16th, Pablo arranged for some members of the community to meet, and I was there to join in and what their concerns were, to hear them out. The chief was there. They wanted to talk primarily with the chief to see what they were doing and what they could do to contribute to people wearing masks. Because and basically what it came down to is this, that they agreed that the city would recommend to take hand sanitizers and to go talk to the business owners to encourage people to wear face masks, short of getting into an ordinance, okay? And Lupe and Tony were assigned to do just that. And I would like to invite Lupe and Tony just to, just a short review on what the response was through what you did as far as the distribution of the hand sanitizer and just to encourage the business owners to do their part.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Mayor? Is the information that has been provided to council, which lays out what has been done thus far by the city, we're more than welcome to provide it to the community if they like. We can email it to you. We'll scan it and make sure that's available to the community. So please contact Angie Ortiz and she'd be happy to provide it to you.
I'll post it on Zoom right now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Could post it on the city website.
Go ahead, Sam.
It's technically just a memo to Melissa at this point in time.
Yeah.
If you guys
But
want
it's
to-
public.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
given to council.
Okay. Just making sure it's my turn. So going back to the businesses, when we went back to deliver hand sanitizer.
And just, you know what, from what you remember that was discussed during that meeting, because you were there with the community?
Yeah, so what was discussed at the meeting, most of them wanted to, the city to try to pass an ordinance so the city can make it more of a law, so we can enforce it, so the store owners could require the use of masks while they're in the stores, due to some people being seen coughing around the produce area. So we said that day is, we're going to discuss it, come back to what we can do, because there were still no strict guidelines on that. And what we have done, we delivered the hand sanitizers that we showed at that meeting that day, which was, at that day we showed 1 gallon hand sanitizer, but each business received 2 gallons of hand sanitizer. And again, we try to remind everybody to try to encourage the use of masks. For the most part, we got the same response from almost all the stores. Good example was La Familia, which would be TNT Market. It was that, they tried to require when people were coming in to say, hey, you got to wear a face mask. But, a lot of them were being more hostile. Or they would simply just say, well, I'll take my business somewhere else because over there they don't require it. So they said it was kind of hard for them to turn away down business because they also want the business, which, we made recommendations too. You know what? You see the people coming in, if they look a little sick or if they're coughing, maybe you can refuse service at that moment or require them to wear a face mask if they have a cough. That was the basic concern that they all had, that, they tried, but, you know, they were received with hostility back, like, you know, they use kind of words, but I can't use those right now. You know, so that was mainly from everybody, the store owners. The only ones that were successful at it, it was Family Dollar. And me and Tony both did tell them how they were actually on top of it and how proud we were of them being able to do it.
They won't let you in without.
Yeah, they didn't. They did an excellent job on that. And other than that, that's from that meeting, inspired from that meeting. So I don't know if that helped answer that question. Or...
Yeah. Do you have any questions for Lupe or Tony or as far as this?
They have been doing a good job at providing the face mask, hand sanitizer to the people in the stores. So that helps tremendously. However, the concern is the cases that we have here in town, and personally witnessing the lack of compliance. In an establishment that under CDC guidelines would allow maybe 3 people, and there was 13 people. Out of them, 2 had face masks. I was one of them. So, I know that the suggestions, talking to the businesses, encourage them. It's something that, hasn't been mandatory, but it's not working at this moment. The way that I see and the way that we hear from the community, they feel uncomfortable, they feel unsafe to go to the store. I think my recommendation to council would be to adopt an ordinance to make it mandatory for the business to require a face mask. Like you said, some do. They say I'm going to take my business somewhere else, but if all the businesses in Avenal they have the same requirements, I don't think that'll be an issue. There's Huron, they had passed that about 2 months ago with the face mask. Kalinga, if you don't have a face mask, they don't let you in. Hanford, they're implementing what the governor already in the order from the governor to use a face mask while shopping. While this resolution, might not be for people to use it at all times when they're walking in the streets, etc. I think that the main points of gathering is when they go shopping, when they go to a business and they follow. Some people follow the steps, but if others don't, that's when we're a little bit. I'm personally a little bit concerned about that. 64 cases here in Avenal, 600 2 miles away from here in this Avenal State Prison. COs come to the businesses. That's a high risk of exposure, and in my opinion, that we need to adopt some kind of ordinance for compliance with the businesses.
That was one of the topics that we talked with the community. One of the recommendations was to have Lupe and Tony go and talk to the business owners and take them the hand sanitizers and face masks if they needed them. The second step was just that. If they didn't listen, then you know what? My take on this is this. The less government interference that I have in my life, the better. That's why, you know what? I don't need to be reminded. I wear a face mask. So I don't want government to tell me what to do. But some people just, I guess they need that encouragement, the next step. And that's exactly what we were going to do. Go ahead, Lupe.
And then if I may too, kind of transfer a little bit on yours. Pretty much all the businesses have been good, getting the hand sanitizer and the face mask when we deliver to them, and they seem supportive, all but 2. 2 pretty much told us they're not going to do it, that was their right. So, at that point, we don't need confrontation either. So, like, okay. But also, if you look at the paper that memo, you'll see some recommendation guidelines that kind of talks about that, what you were talking about right now. If you guys want to do that in the future or whenever. And, it includes even education, because I think education would probably be the more key on it. Because sometimes you do talk to people, something you just put it on because you got told, but once you tell them a little bit why, then they kind of understand a little bit more, and then they're more compliant of, okay, now I see why it's important to put it on. Like, more like, okay, if I'm sick, I'm not going to give it to you. I'll hopefully get stopped here. So education is on those guidelines.
You know, and basically that's what the governor, I was listening to the governor's recommendation because they're not fining anybody. He's more into, he's saying, you know what, this is more to educate the public on the benefits, if you will, on wearing a face mask. And me, I agree. You know what? I mean, if I want to keep my family safe and others, just wear the face mask. But that's how I see it. So,
Yeah.
So, one thing I don't understand, the governor did that on the 18th, requiring everyone to wear face masks.
It's a health.
It's health,
It's
yes.
not an executive order.
Okay.
yeah.
So
It's
we,
still pushed by the governor.
So it's not enforceable, except he's threatening
when
to
he said,
take
so when he
money.
said it, I'm sorry to talk over, but when he said it, it was, he made it, they made it, media and everybody made it seem like it was mandated,
Yeah.
executive
Okay.
order. But when we started looking for it, it pretty much came back just more of a public health who did it. I talked to other colleagues of mine from around the state, and they all pretty much said the same thing. It's not really an executive order, so it's still technically not law. It's more of a public health. So right now, technically, Kings County Health could come anywhere in Kings County and enforce it because it's more on their side.
Kings County isn't enforcing it, so.
I know, but the way it is, it's very confusing. Trust me. We were going around and around and trying to find it to where we can.
So, okay, my next question would be, if you have an ordinance, there's got to be teeth in it.
Yes.
So what kind of teeth are people putting into these things?
That's a hard one because, like I said, it's not coming. I totally understand you. I totally understand you. It's just the only way we can put teeth on this is if we actually start, because we can control the businesses, what the businesses can do and not do. Like, we require shirts to go in a store, right? And you can't go without a shirt or shoes.
Yeah,
So it'd be kind of similar to that.
so you can pull their business
So,
license.
so
if
then you
they-
can go to the business where you start saying, part of doing business, this was your requirements, and if you don't do it, then you can
Okay.
potentially,
That makes-
that would be one option.
If I may, this is McSchulte. The city of Fresno, we took a look at this for one of our other cities, and the city of Fresno actually has a pretty good, I hate to admit it, a pretty good model for enforcing some of the requirements on the businesses. And they made some decisions to enforce certain things like masks and social distancing against the businesses rather than the individuals. And it's, they're continuing with it because they feel like it's having an effect. So there is a model out there for it.
Very few businesses in Fresno. So, yeah.
Thank you, Alvaro. We can
Go
hear you.
ahead.
Yes, I also have a comment to make. Uh, I really appreciate all the work that Lupi and whoever was at the meeting communicating with the community and
Good.
listening to their needs.
Look,
Okay.
Sounds like his connection might not be good.
Can you hear me now? Well, my comment will be that I will be supporting an ordinance to for businesses to require. They already have the signs at the doors where they say that it is required to enter the business wearing a mask and social distancing. So they have the flyers and the signs, but they're not enforcing it. This is something that's really is affecting our community and other communities around us. And as we know, everyday cases are coming up. They're not going down. They're coming up. and has opening the business and opening other parks, beaches. What is bringing more people getting infected with COVID-19. And and we cannot stop it for sure, but we can prevent and save a lot of people getting infected by requiring them to wear a mask, which is protecting not only the ones that are infected, but the ones that are not infected. So this is something that we cannot hesitate. We're trying to protect the public health, and if it's a requirement, I agree that any businesses should let people go in without wearing a mask, because it's putting everybody at risk. Our 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 population is actually getting exposed to COVID-19 at work, or other cities, in our own city. So we need to be proactive and try to do something to stop it from climbing up the way it is climbing. So I will make a motion to provide a resolution to require businesses to enforce the mandate of the state of California. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Tony.
He put a motion on the floor.
Yes, okay. Mr. Attorney,
I knew that was coming. Yes, go ahead.
the motion as far as the ordinance,
It's actually a request for a resolution. It's a policy as opposed to a law.
okay? So my question
So
is,
if I
go ahead.
Sorry.
well, if I may, I'll just lay out here sort of the city's authority. The city has the authority to under their police authority as an administrative measure to actually pass this measure because of the guidance at the state and at the county level. The same way emergency measures have been put in place already. But that said, if the council wants to take action on this tonight, so that could actually be put in place by the staff without a vote by the council. But if the council were to vote, and in fact there is this measure or this motion pending, the resolution and the policy is, I think, an easier way to do it. Although I will say that if the council wanted to vote on it as an emergency measure tonight and put that on as a motion, they certainly could. But so I will say easiest options are in order of ease. Number one is just give the staff guidance to do it on a staff level. Number two is pass this resolution to make it a matter of policy. That would be the second option. And the third option is a full motion and resolution. But I don't think you need a motion to do this tonight. But even though there isn't one, you still could do it. There you go.
Since a resolution is a policy, would a resolution be a better way to go if that's in fact what council wanted to do? Or would an emergency ordinance be more appropriate and provide more teeth, so to speak? Mike?
Yeah, so I think an emergency ordinance would have more teeth. But I will say this, I think that you can do that on a staff level, kind of under the same emergency ordinance measures that you've had. But given that you have council together tonight and it is on the agenda and you're having the discussion, if you wanted to pass it as an emergency ordinance with a council approval, you can do that as well. And either way, I don't think you're going to have an argument that you don't have teeth in this.
So, any questions?
How can we pass something that's not written yet?
By title, it would be by title.
Tony?
So Tony had some information provided in the memo.
Based on the memo we wrote to Melissa, anticipating that perhaps council would want to go towards this direction. We had a meeting about this on Tuesday, so she directed us to start looking into what are the possibilities based on our resources. If you look at the bottom of page 2, next steps, we kind of outline what we think would be the best approach. for helping increase awareness and increase usage of face masks and following the state's health guidelines that were just recently passed. I'm going to go over them very quickly and see if this is what we as staff, which is Fernando, Lupe, and I came up with. So we would increase education about social distancing and face coverings with flyers. That's attached at the very end of that document, meaning that it would be something the city has passed as a guidance as well. And we would include posters throughout Avenal and do social media PSAs with pictures and videos. Something Lupe had come up with was maybe if they see some community members basically saying, please wear a mask, showing how to use a mask, that might encourage more people to see that's socially acceptable.
I think the misconception is that a lot of people think they have to wear a mask as soon as they walk out of their house. But if they're alone in their vehicle alone, they don't have to wear it. So that kind of education part video, and only when they're in big gatherings.
Right, because this isn't you wear a face mask right when you walk outside the door. It's when you're in a situation where you cannot acceptably social distance. Next would be continue, this is to the city's credit, continue the distribution of face masks and hand sanitizer at an individual level as well as to businesses. This is to ensure that there's technically no excuse for people not to be wearing a face mask or cleaning their hands. To really push this initiative, we would recommend hosting some sort of weekend event where the face mask and hand sanitizer would be made available for the community, some sort of like drive, lunch out, something like that. Something outside at the park, of course, but just to make sure that everyone knows that there is resources available for them. Digging in deeper, something with a little more teeth, and this was with the help of Fernando. Something we could do as part of the community development department would be to require these list of things. Require all businesses to offer face masks to any client not wearing a face covering. This would be based on the fact that we've supplied them with face masks so they can hand out. Require all businesses to make hand sanitizer available to all clients. Next would be to mandate all public spaces and businesses reduce their indoor capacity in half and post that capacity in a conspicuous space. So as we've gone through the phases and the shelter-in-place order has kind of been lifted, the capacity numbers have kind of been shifted around from the CDC guidelines, public health guidelines. So there isn't a strict guideline at this moment. If we were to pass something that we could help enforce, say half capacity for each business, that I think is something that is fair to all of them. Lastly, because we realize that the problem areas have been the grocery stores, not to single them out, but this is the area of most risk as they are essential businesses, would be to mandate all businesses classified under the food store classification for businesses that offer fresh produce and meat have a gatekeeper guard at each store entrance to manage the flow of customers and ensure compliance of capacity, social distancing, and face coverings. This is basically copying the model we've seen in a few stores. Here in Avenal, that would be Family Dollar, Costco, and a few other stores have done the same. To help enforce this would require all city staff to kind of work as a team. Lupe is just one guy right now, so we would need help of the Avenal PD as well to kind of help patrol and educate. We would be doubling down in a positive sense, getting the community, getting the outreach out there. I think the intent isn't necessarily to go out and bring the hammer down on all community members, but actually educate them and just encourage them positively. The more people they see, if 9 of us were wearing a mask and one wasn't, it's more easier to convince that one person to wear a mask. But if only one person is wearing a mask and everyone else isn't, it gets a lot more difficult. To make it even more stringent on the businesses, these rules would be met with a citation for non-compliance. Currently, that administrative fee schedule has a fee of $50, increasing $50 after each instance. Our recommendation would be to, after 3 citations, to do a review of the business license with the possibility of suspension. That's what we've come up with at this point. Obviously, at council's direction and Melissa's, anything is possible.
2 suggestions.
Yes.
the one require businesses to offer face masks to clients. That's kind of leaves us out in an open space where you're assuming there will always be face masks available. I would say either offer face masks or deny entrance,
Okay.
because you never know. Next week, face masks may not be around again.
That is fair, and I know we still have some, and I know we've talked about the possibility of acquiring more. I
Yeah,
think we were feeling that at this point, most people have masks, but you're right.
but they can show up and say, I don't have one. And then the other one is under foods, the food store, you're limiting to, first of all, I'd say fresh produce and or meat, because somebody can come back as a sticker and say, well, I only have meat, I don't have produce.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
But the other thing is, why just those two items? Why not many marts that have hot dogs or coffee urns or something like that?
Okay, so the idea went back to, good example, like Circle K. Once this happened, they pretty much pulled all their hot items, all their hot dogs and everything. They were no longer available for the same reason. And nothing, I think they're very limited on what they actually have. The reason why those produce and meat is because those were also the bigger stores that stayed open that were considered essential, when all the other stores were considered non-essential.
I know there's been stores that have just started getting packaged foods products just
So
to get essential on their name.
So the idea also behind it is that if this gets worse, where we have to go to another shutdown again, those stores are the ones that will be remaining open. So if we force them more there now, the idea is that the smaller stores will follow suit because they obviously want to stay open. They are the ones that are doing more on trying to implement this. The biggest problems has been coming from the produce meat stores in town, which is three main ones, which is
The bakeries haven't been a problem? Bakeries, because
we haven't heard any problems in any of these smaller stores here. The biggest problems and complaints we've been getting are from La Familia, which was formerly TNT, State Foods, and Amigos Mart.
Those were why those meetings, that Palo Alto kind of came about. Those were specific examples.
So it's not like we singled them out on purpose. It's just the idea was that they remained open when everyone else was shut down, and they're the ones we're getting the bigger problem. And if we were to, hopefully we don't, go to another shutdown, that they would be the ones considered essential again and remain open. Where I know most of the gas stations, they pulled all their hot items out, and it was just your regular cold food or package.
And you are completely right. Fernando was the one who brought up with this. Whatever we do needs to be fair, and this was at least the instance as targeted an approach as we could think of. That's as fair. But if you feel that it should be extended further, we just feel that because we know what we're working with, that those businesses do have the capacity to adhere to like having someone at the door.
I'm just always the person that looks at what the next objection's going to be.
That's perfect.
I play devil's advocate on everything.
And we need that.
So, comments on this?
I would like to amend my motion for an emergency resolution, and we can still use and not coming to effect in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, we can do the education that Anthony and Lupe have been working on and preparing. I believe this is the time to react, to act and have something in place. Other cities are doing it. I've been into many, many stores, and I was denied to go in if I didn't have a mask. And all it takes is go to your car, get your mask, and go back inside. And if we make it fair, it's going to be for every single business, not only the food stores or any other ones. So I believe this is something that we cannot wait. We've been dealing with COVID-19 since December, January, We're already in June, almost July, so there's no time to waste. We need to prepare our community, and that will be my motion. Thank you.
He modified it
Yeah, he modified
Oh,
it.
he
I
modified
thought-
to an emergency
Resolution.
resolution.
If,
So,
if there's a second, then I'd like to discuss after.
go ahead.
Are we able to discuss the details of it after the motion, after we vote, or?
The, as far, see, well, like the recommendations that they're bringing forth, okay, you can add, because Alvaro did not, he just said apply it to all businesses, okay? Um, Did, Alvaro, do you include all the recommendations that were just read with that motion?
No, that's something that needs to be, I believe, Anthony and Fernando and Lupe Chavez need to work on it. You know, those recommendations, they're saying it's not for everyone. So my motion will be an emergency ordinance to require all businesses to require people entering their businesses to wear a mask. And also educate the community with what Fernando and Anthony and Lupe have been working on, educating the community and giving time. I think in Colinga, when it first came into a requirement, they gave it 2 weeks. They had the sign posted on the door, but they still gave the community 2 weeks to be aware that it's going to be mandatory to wear a mask before they enter the businesses. And they're doing it. They're keeping people from going in for not wearing a mask. It can be done, and we can do it too. Thank you.
Just,
I agree with Councilman Ramirez, and I agree with Councilman Preciado. The same way we passed an ordinance for the price gouging to help our community go through this, I think we need to pass an ordinance so everybody, so we follow the governor's rules. As yesterday, I read something that he said that if you don't follow the rules, he's going to take some money from counties or cities. So I think our city is not in the position to be, funds withdrawn from the city. We're not doing that. And I think it's needed in the community, so I also suggest that we pass a emergency ordinance.
Well, what we need is a second.
I'll second.
Okay. So there's first and second.
Are we specific on what we're passing exactly?
Yeah, I would like clarification of what the motion was for.
Personally, Mr. Alvaro, I would personally recommend that we go with something a little more than, a education and, of course that's going to be implemented, but it should be something to grab more grip and more compliance because the situation is concerning. I would go with the citation of $50. Perhaps if somebody else wants to increase it, that's up to council. But I think that would have a little teeth, like it's being said, to enforce this in all businesses. I don't know if I made myself understood on that.
Yes.
Well, I would agree to this as it's.
Maybe Mr. Preciado
Ri-
didn't hear all this well enough. Maybe you want to recommend if you want to hear it again.
It's because what there is, Mr. Alvaro, is that there's this list of pages, and they're giving different recommendations. So it's not just like one whole recommendation. It's like going from a soft something to enforce, yeah, like soft, mild, and then going into something more. Did I understand you?
It would be both. Our intent was all of it. So staff would already be doing all this education. The city would help support the education part, giving out masks and everything. And specifically to businesses, this is how we would try to help enforce it even further. Because I think there would be trouble in the enforcement if we just say everyone needs to be wearing a mask. Because then that would mean anyone who's outside should be wearing a mask. There does need to be more details, as you pointed out,
Yeah.
Councilor Ramirez. So this was meant to just kind of specify where the problem areas are right now. And the council direction, what more you'd like to add to it. It would be all of that, not just certain
Yeah.
parts.
Okay. I would recommend for all businesses to be required to. It's not a hard thing to do. When customer comes in, do you have a face mask? It's mandatory. Otherwise, you can come in and the customer will be there 5-10 minutes. It won't be long, but at the same time, it's effective. I don't know if anybody has any further comments, but I think that's the way we should move on that.
You know, for the lack of education, I don't think we can say much about it, because the city has been going out and doing their part. So we are beyond the education level, if you will. We're to this point to where we need to require the businesses to require clients before they come in to wear a mask. And just follow the recommendations that they have brought forth, and I agree. So, Mr. Attorney, how can we proceed with that?
As I mentioned before, I don't, so the suggestion, so let's talk first about the motion as I see it and understand it, that, it's essentially telling the businesses that they now have to enforce the face mask rule. And then the staff had prepared this more detailed extension of that, really, to, first, second, third, uh, um, times that people messed up or got in trouble or got cited for it, businesses, not people. And either one of those are actions that the city can take right now. So again, I look at it like this. If the city wants to, under emergency measures and or just under title, the city can simply say, it's an emergency and we want to do it right now, and this is what we're going to do. The only thing that I would encourage you to do is to be clear on what it is you're putting into place. As a participant right now, I'm not entirely clear on the specifics of the scope of what everybody wants to put in place. So I hope that helps to answer your question.
Do you have something for us?
No,
Because there
I'm
was
not-
a first and second already.
Right.
Don't know what it's on.
We understand that, from what
Okay.
I understood, to require that businesses require masks of people going in, but not public at large? Is that, okay, so make it more restrictive for the businesses?
For the businesses,
Okay.
only in the.
Okay.
So the emergency ordinance is only this part right here?
Which page are you?
The page
Three?
three,
The
the
part about the
top.
businesses?
Yes, okay,
Dude,
good.
because I can't-
That's good. That's good.
The idea is, council, please continue supporting this, and then as staff, we will do this. That's what we're saying. We'll continue making sure everyone has the resources necessary, and we will require businesses, based on their business licenses, that they make all their customers wear face masks or refuse entry. Require all businesses to continue offering hand sanitizer. They have 2 gallons, it should last them. And then mandate all public spaces that they reduce their capacity in half, so we're the social distancing part. And lastly, the businesses under food store have somebody at the door controlling the flow of traffic. Something I left out in my presentation, though it is included there, that we would prepare a guide for all these businesses so they can, to kind of help them understand what these changes mean and how they can help enforce it, that they should, refuse service if someone comes in without a mask. If we want to include, either they provide a mask or they refuse service, we can add that in as well. This is just what we feel, what we see that we can do under our capacity and resources.
You need to bring the failure to comply part up to a bullet.
Yeah.
Because that needs to be in the ordinance.
I think so.
Or whatever you're calling this thing.
I have a question for the attorney, please. Michael, with the emergency declaration we have in place by resolution and I don't recall the section, it's right at the end of the resolution, which allows or provides the authority to the city to take certain steps. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I don't have it in front of me either, but yes,
Okay.
that's the same
It's,
one that's sort of been
it's pretty,
utilized for the last 3
right.
months. Yeah.
Right, it's pretty general too, in emergency declarations. Ours isn't that extensive. We have the power to do certain things, administrative powers, even without an ordinance. But
Correct.
there is an ordinance to pass an emergency one, or at least to bring one back. But we can go forward with the kind of the plan that staff has provided and use the administrative tool to cite, that being within the municipal code of 50, 100, 150. And if we choose to bring an emergency ordinance back, we can increase that fine over and above what the Muni Code says? I'm sorry, it's getting a bit technical, but.
No, no. So if you're just talking about that one component, or really any component in this, again, as I stated before, I think you could do any of this and all of this administratively. I understand
Okay.
that this is a discussion at a council level about passing an ordinance, but on an emergency level with the authority that you've already given yourselves, then you could act on this on a staff level. So if you're asking, could the staff adopt pieces and parts of this or make changes to this? If it were passed tonight on the council level, my answer would be yes, because the
Okay.
staff still maintains the authority to act on an emergency level.
That being the emergency declaration.
That's correct.
Okay, okay. So by further restricting through an ordinance, is there a need to go that far? I guess, and it's legal
So,
questions. I want to make
yeah.
sure we're doing the right thing.
Well, so allow me to just say that I think that the issue, as I understand it, is that the, if I may even characterize it a little broader, is this: the state of California and the county have certain ordinances, and those ordinances are not ordinances; they have regulations and requirements and guidelines. And right now, the guidelines are to have all businesses require that people wear masks and all people to wear masks out in public. Those are the guidelines, at a minimum guidelines, and in some instances, ordinances. And there's social distancing ordinances and et cetera, et cetera. The problem is that the city of Avenal, as its own governmental entity, doesn't have anything consistent with that. And so there are a number of businesses that are taking advantage of the lack of consistency with the county and the state. And so for the city of Avenal to say, we're going to make ourselves consistent with the county and the state, and we're going to require that businesses have masks under the emergency ordinances that we were passed because of the state in the first place, that's what we're doing today. I think that that is entirely reasonable to do and entirely within the authority of the city. But I think that's really kind of the scope of what the issue here is that you have a number of businesses that are saying, hey, there's an inconsistency and I'm going to take advantage of it. And I think passing the ordinance on the basis or passing a law or even administratively enforcing this law is certainly within the city's powers and authority. And again, I do believe you could do this on an administrative level. And I will say this, given that there's a little bit of confusion at this point, I would personally recommend that I think guidance from the council on what the staff should do on an administrative level, you can create this as an emergency ordinance without city council approval, and then the same way you've handled everything else. So I just think maybe you treat it as, okay, here's what the council would like to see, and then the staff can go do it. Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's the shortest answer you're going to get out of me. Yep.
In doing that, we would bring it would go into effect immediately, but we would bring it back on the 9th to ratify?
Yes.
No, thank
Yeah,
you.
I presume the 9th is the right date, but the answer is yes. You bring it back at your next council meeting to ratify. Yes.
Go into effect immediately. Okay,
Yep.
thank you, thank you.
Yep.
I'm good.
So in essence, we can proceed with what has happened, and
Right.
you will write down the details.
And what happens is if council is good with basically the policies here that have been provided by planning and code enforcement, and to focus on the businesses, that's my understanding, focus on businesses, we can, council can approved by title ordinance. I've never done a title ordinance before. That's what I needed to know. It would go into effect immediately. We would bring back the written ordinance at the next meeting only to ratify it for file. So it can actually go into effect now. But as the attorney said, staff, we need to be clear, council needs to be clear exactly what it is we're doing. Okay, that's all we're asking.
What do we do with the motion and second on the floor?
So I would recommend that the motion either be withdrawn or tabled.
Okay, I'm not tabling my motion. I want you guys to understand, my motion is an emergency declaration ordinance for businesses to require to wear a mask before they enter their businesses. I want that resolution to be approved tonight, and I understand the attorney's recommendation, but I want this to be made clear. My motion stands on the floor. I want an emergency ordinance to require all businesses to require a mask for people to go in. I also want Anthony to enforce and educate the community with what he read a few minutes ago regarding the requirements. And I also believe that there should be a fine for businesses that do not comply with the requirements of the ordinance that we're requiring. It can be prepared, and it can be brought back to for us, but I want to make sure that it passed tonight and it's approved by majority of the council.
If I may address that, I understand, I think what you're asking for, Mr. Preciado, and I think that, or Councilmember Preciado, I think that that is what staff is trying to accomplish tonight, is saying this will become an ordinance, but it will become an ordinance on a staff level. And so I think everything you're recommending or suggesting, or by motion, I don't mean to minimize it, is something that the staff is going to put into place immediately, but we'll be bringing it back with all those details that you just said, let's get those details sorted out at another time, bringing back those details for ratification at the next council meeting. So I think what you're looking for is actually being suggested by the staff, but because of the lack of details, I would recommend that it be done on a staff level. So, and done immediately. Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're suggesting that it be done immediately, and so you take those actions immediately, but then come back to the council with all the details about the fines, how much the fines are, etc., during the ratification process. Am I incorrect in understanding that, Melissa?
That's what I understood when I spoke earlier too. That was a clarification I needed as to, with it going into effect immediately, we would bring the details back based on what council has given us thus far. The only,
If I may, my concern about an emergency ordinance on a city council vote level is just simply the lack of details. there are due process concerns with that. On a staff level, when the staff says we're going to enforce this little piece of it, we're going to make everybody, all the businesses require masks, and we'll do what we can that's specific, but on all the open items, those need to come back to the council. That kind of avoids the due process concerns, and I'm just a little concerned with a vote tonight on a council level without having those details ironed out.
And that's why the attorney is suggesting that we table that motion. Do it at the,
Tabling the motion doesn't prevent the enforcement on a staff level. So the enforcement begins tonight, but the motion just gets tabled so that all the details of it become an ordinance at next week's meeting, or 2 weeks from now. And I'm sorry, I'll mute myself here.
this is going to become active immediately, and they're going to write down the detail, bring it back to us the next meeting, and it'll be ratified and become pretty much law.
But tomorrow we can actually start the information and enforcement process.
So
what do we need to do?
well, basically, like the attorney says, this motion needs to be tabled.
So we need a motion to table?
Well,
Well, there's a motion second on the floor, so I guess we would, pending further information, to table until the July 9th meeting? Would that be appropriate, Mike?
Yeah, again, with all due respect to everyone involved, and I'm trying to sort of make sure that everyone's needs get met here, but so the council has the authority, if there's a motion and a second, the council has the authority to simply table it and not take a vote on it. Alternatively, the council can take a vote and deny it, or the council can take a vote and approve it. But under the circumstances, I would recommend against approving it because of the lack of level of detail. But I would, and I would recommend against denying the motion or voting against the motion, because I think everyone's in agreement that it's a good motion. So my recommendation is to simply hold the motion, hold the second, table it until the second, or till the next council meeting when all of the details can be put into a complete ordinance. And I hope that explains it without being too lawyerly.
I think we should go with the last alternative that was given, because what is trying to get accomplished here, it will get accomplished anyway, but the details will be provided for the next
Correctly.
council meeting,
Right.
and then, the details will be fully enforced.
okay. So, like you said,
Hold on. So we're making this so difficult. I understand the lawyer's concerns, but at the same time, we already have some details on what Anthony and Fernando and Lupe already worked on. So we can still vote on it with those requirements that they already have in place. And then we can still bring it back and adjust to whatever we need to do regarding the fines and make it more, feasible to be accomplished. So, details, we already have some in place. Anthony just read them, and I think they were prepared and they work on them. So I will make my motion stand an emergency ordinance with the details that Anthony just read to council, and then we can bring it back and we feel we still need more detail regarding fines. We can still regroup and have it passed. Thank you.
I'm a little confused now.
Just make another motion.
well,
Mike, can you take us back through the steps as far as the motion and second and the possibility of tabling?
Sure.
And because I'm myself am confused a bit now. I don't know about anyone else.
Okay. So let me make sure. I'm unmuted. Okay, so I'm in my brain. I'm thinking here of sort of how we can get this accomplished. So if it seems like the council is generally in agreement with certain components of this, of what the staff had read out, but when you include citations and fines components, that sort of ups the game, because now you're going to have versus creating the ordinance. If it doesn't have, over the next couple weeks. So I guess let me start over and say this: if the ordinance was created on a staff level, you get the word out, you do educating, you're not really citing people for a while, and by that time you've already come back and you've ratified the ordinance, right? And you've put into place what happens if people aren't complying and everything else. It gives you time and gives the public time to weigh in. And that's frankly the definition of due process. If I think the staff has the authority certainly to move forward tonight. I think the council has the authority to move forward tonight. What I'm a little concerned about is each time that the motion has been discussed, it has changed. It has gone from face mask to including some of the the staff recommendations to including all of the staff recommendations. And so it's changed each time. And so the history of this, if it was voted on tonight, is a little bit murky as a procedural issue. And my concern is that murkiness, if you want to enforce it later. And so if I may make a recommendation, I'm going to be bold here, and it may muddy the water, but what if the city were to, what if a council member were to make a motion that there be a face mask ordinance, that businesses be required to enforce face masks for all their customers, and that the city staff be instructed to go out and educate businesses and individuals on face masks. And that's the second part of the ordinance. And the third part of the ordinance is for the staff to bring back enforcement mechanisms at the next council meeting. That way you get the ordinance made tonight that says we're going to require our businesses to do that, but you're also directing staff in a general way to go out and educate individuals, and you're also directing staff to bring back the ordinance in a way that meets all of the procedural guidelines for constitutional basis. And in my opinion, I think that meets with what everybody's trying to accomplish. It's a little bit of overkill, because again, this could all be done on a staff level. But I'm very concerned about passing this whole ordinance, the entire thing, tonight. And I'm not trying to be a buzzkill. I'm just saying I'm concerned about the enforcement mechanism of it, because of just sort of the openness of this discussion. So if the council were to want to limit the motion and the passing of the motion to face masks and recommending or requesting or directing staff to do those things, I think that's a fair resolution. But otherwise, I'm just the council can certainly override my recommendations and do what they wish, but my sense is it's just better to get it in place tonight and come back with the full script of it in 2 weeks. So again, apologies for being too much of an attorney tonight. That is never my goal. So.
Well, thank you. That's why we need you. Seattle, are you in agreement with the attorney? Move forward that way, knowing that we know what the ordinance is about. We need to make sure that the penalty portion of this is approved by ordinance by council once it's been drafted. But we will go forward based on the direction given to council tonight. Would you be agreeable to that?
Uh, I understand, that the fines need to be discussed and get into an agreement with the council, because we don't really want to kind of come up too high on fines. But I don't know. I don't agree with legal counsel, because we're trying to accomplish something, and seems like every time I put a resolution, it looks like it wants to move things around. And either way we go, it seems like we're going back to square one. So, we need to really move forward with this as soon as we can. We cannot afford to lose more time. We're only going to have one meeting in July, and we need to move forward and get this accomplished right now, or as soon as possible.
And that this can be active today without that resolution. Go ahead, sorry.
Councilman Preciado, if I may, with all the respect, just a way to try to reward it, meeting the goals of, the legal counsel and the motion that you have made, it would be for council to make this effective immediately tonight, but understanding that, all the details will be laid out in the next meeting, but this is still enforceable. Am I correct on that?
Well, the way the lawyer kind of specified it would be kind of very broad. The enforcement would be a little murky for us, and it wouldn't specify anything about having the capacity or having any like guard or watch person at the doors, which are the things we were recommending to be a little more specific. I don't know if it helps, Councilmember Preciado. We do hear everything you are saying and the intent that you have, and I think I can speak for the staff saying that we would want to fulfill what council is and you are hoping to see, if that
And I
helps.
think
Still do it under
everybody
the
agrees.
emergency
It just, the
title order,
language is a
couldn't you?
little,
Yeah,
a
the
little bit
resolution,
tricky.
that's what I'd stated. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's what I was stating about
Yeah.
the certain authorities that we have under the emergency resolution, things that we can do. But I believe what our legal counsel's saying, because of the penalty portion, we have to be really careful about that and provide due process. Right.
See,
Right. Correct.
and that's the hesitation of legal counsel, as I understand it, but in passing that emergency resolution, okay, because of the fines, without the details, right? That's why he's saying, you know what, table that resolution, do it at the administrative level, have them bring all the detail back to the council and be ratified and signed. But it will be active come tomorrow or today, for that matter.
Immediately.
As an ordinance.
As an ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. So, see.
So that'll also help on my end as an enforcement, because we go the other way, then we're getting in gray areas to where I can cite or not cite or give the administrative fines. So it's something like we're recommending now that'll give us a little bit of leverage and stay in the legal side as far as in my end on whoever else is going to help enforce this, would it be PD or whoever we figure it out.
So, you did, are we able to, you did the second motion,
Yeah.
okay? Do you understand with that or table your
I
motion?
can table my motion.
Table your motion, okay?
Okay, we had two motions. We
Yes.
need to act on one
He
motion
can
and then we can
rescind
make
his
it.
Rescind,
second,
okay?
or he can make a motion to table it, but we're
All
not
right.
following the parliamentary
Okay.
procedures,
We're kind
guys.
of going around a little bit, but we have a motion
Okay.
and a second on the floor. Go ahead.
So rescind, table, whichever the,
He could rescind it and it dies.
okay?
It probably would be
There
cleaner
you
that
go.
way.
Yeah.
That way we can proceed with this.
I want to table my motion.
So that would basically be withdrawing your motion?
You're going to
Okay, so-
read, you're going to withdraw your second.
Right,
Yeah.
so there's
I'm
only a
withdrawing my
motion.
motion.
Okay, so withdraw second.
Okay.
So it would be appropriate then to ask if there's a second to the original motion?
Okay, very good. Is there a second to the original motion? Okay. No? Okay, so motion dies for lack of second. So now we can propose what the attorney has pretty much laid out for the city to follow.
We can direct
Okay.
staff to do that.
There you go. So we direct staff to follow the procedure that the attorney has suggested
I
to
would,
follow?
a motion and a second, and
Okay.
also to include bring back the written ordinance.
Very good. Is there first a motion?
What would the motion be? I'm not making another motion. Unless I got it in writing. What would the motion be, Michael?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if I may, I think the following motion would work. Let's go with, the motion is first to require all businesses, to direct staff to require all businesses to offer face masks to any client not wearing a face covering. And then from there, generally, then for the staff to educate the city businesses and the city public on the guidelines, on the ordinance and requirements that the city is intending on putting in place regarding face masks. And then thirdly, to bring back a full ordinance on this issue to the next city council meeting. And I think that would take care of it, because then staff can overreach, honestly, if they want to, on an emergency level. So that's the simplicity, I think, gets everything accomplished.
Need a motion?
Now, to require businesses,
To direct staff to require businesses to offer face masks to any client not wearing a face covering, and to
put in or deny entry.
I would put in deny entry if they don't. So I was just reading off of that initial thing. So I would change it to this, to direct staff to instruct businesses to prevent entry to anyone not wearing a face mask. That's really what you need, right? Yeah, and then the staff can come back with an ordinance that's a little more clear, but I think directing staff to instruct the businesses that they need to deny entry to anyone not wearing a face mask, I think that's as simple as it gets, right? And then direct staff to come back with a full ordinance with enforcement mechanisms, and also direct,
Number two.
Number two was direct staff to educate businesses.
Oh, they educate.
On face mask ordinance. And then three is to come back to the council with a face mask ordinance at the next council meeting.
Did you write that one?
And that would be as an emergency ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I so move.
Okay.
I will second.
So there's a first and second? Yes. Roll call, please.
Councilman Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilman Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilman Preciado.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Woolley.
Yes.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye. Okay, 5-0. Now we can proceed. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I can only apologize on behalf of all attorneys everywhere for that.
Mr.
We needed guidance. No, thank you, Mike. We needed the guidance. We appreciate that very
Okay.
much.
So we're moving on to item 6B, consider request to install stop sign at East Kern and 4th Street. Thank you, señores. Ms. Val?
We received a letter from Mr. Magdaleno, and he has a concern. He lives at 329 East Kern. He has a concern with traffic in the area at Kern and 4th. And he actually provided a great memo as well as pictures to support his concerns. He is asking for a stop sign in the area. I have spoken to our chief and also spoken to Scott Davis regarding this item, so I'm not certain who would like to pick up after this. Scott, are you on the line? I can't see. Can you see Scott there?
I'll take it, Melissa. Go ahead, Red.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening,
Rusty?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Can you hear me? Very good. Yeah, I've read the letter. I'm speaking with the gentleman probably a couple of years ago, and we put a traffic trailer out there at the time, and it seemed to curtail the reckless driving events at that time. So that's been a couple of years ago, maybe. And so what our plan is now is we just got in our traffic trailers, signal devices. We got one in Friday, and we got the other one in yesterday. So Mr. Tuttle is working on, through the owner's manual, how to program those, and we plan to get one out in front of the residents here, hopefully next week sometime. So I will make contact with the property owner tomorrow and let him know, have one of our speed enforcement trailers out there, and hopefully that'll be a visual deterrent as well. But really what it will do is it will give us a count of the number of cars coming and going. We'll pick a certain direction, either northbound or east or westbound, whichever is the primary point of concern. So we will be working on it, and Scott and I always work together. If we do need a stop sign in place, we always seem to work it out. So I will make contact with the gentleman tomorrow, and we will keep you posted if you need us to. That's all I have.
Thank you, Rusty. I believe the trailers, the new speed trailers will provide the backup information we need to make a good decision. Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments on this?
So,
I have a question. So, making the study, how long will it take to make the study and decide on a stop sign on that location? How long will it take?
So we'll probably leave it out there a full week so we can gather that, whatever day so we have a full week's of data, so we don't eliminate any days of the week, and we can examine how many cars come by on a Wednesday, and for example, a Wednesday, and it shows us the peak traffic times as well, and it tracks the high speeds and the low speeds and the average speed as well. So a week's worth of data is sufficient enough, and I will get back to Melissa. We can get back to you guys and see where it's at. But we'll be working on
And that's the same protocol that it was taken for the one on Union and the one on Corcoran and the rest of the city, because they've been those stop signs in those other locations. They haven't done the same way.
The one on Corcoran and I think it's Fremont, we had one out there for some time, and up on 5th and San Mateo and Santa Clara we did. The other ones we did not. There's a pretty deep rain. I don't know, Scott, what's the name of the word? The rain gutter, valley gutter.
Valley gutters, yeah.
The valley gutter that runs east and west across there. So I would imagine the north and southbound traffic not being as fast, I would hope. So we really need to take a look at the east and west traffic.
Yeah, and Rusty, I've experienced it even down in that same area, and it's mostly morning traffic that is the east-west traffic. And Tulsare's not quite as bad, but Kern, Ventura, and Orange, all three of those east to west, people drive really fast, and obviously they don't know they're supposed to slow down to 15 miles an hour in an uncontrolled intersection. So we may be able to do some strategic placing of those stop signs on the east-west also once we get some more information.
Yeah, we can maybe work together on that whole area down there, in that pocket down there, to see what the best, like you said, the best place to put them in. So, but we'll definitely make contact with the property owner. I've spoken to him in the past, and we'll go from there. Yes, ma'am. You bet. You bet.
Question? Okay. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chief. So we're moving on to item number 7. Activity report, special presentations and community report. 1, community development planning activity report. Fernando?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to give you an update on everything that the department has been up to over the last month. And before I begin, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the conversation that took place just a little while ago regarding the enforcement of the mask at local businesses. I think, you know, the businesses are in an unfortunate situation where they are really the ones who are made to be the bad guys in terms of enforcing this requirement because of the health crisis. So I think every step that the city can take to basically give them support and give them the tools that they need to manage that responsibility, I think is going to go a long way. So I appreciate the ordinance that was passed and the tools that were given to us to be able to support them. And, you know, I think with the enforcement, the teeth of the ordinance, it's just going to be really a natural progression of the circumstances, because Tony and Lupe have done a really good job of, you know, developing relationships with the businesses. So I just wanted to say that before I dive into my report here. But can everybody hear me okay? Great. So with the community center, if you've been out there on Hydro, the building looks really good. And we've pretty much wrapped up the first phase. We have the shell of the building with 2 interior slabs, and we have a parking lot. And so now it's just up to us to continue finding funding to finish the inside of the building and make it usable for our citizens. So that's what we're working on right now. Melissa and I got some great news yesterday about some grant funding that has been allocated to Avenal. Some of which, not all of which we can probably use for the community center. So we're excited about that, but more on that once we know more about how we can use that money. So we're just looking at ways to also continue the little things that are left on the outside of the building, the stonework, as I mentioned in my report, and the canopies that are going to make it look like a much more complete, aesthetically pleasing building. I talked about the COVID-19 Emergency Business Loan Program. We were able to make 17 loans to businesses, which I think went a really long way, and businesses were really appreciative of council support in rolling out that program. There was, one business that we know of that did miss out on it, but I think for the most part, everybody that needed the assistance and came forward received the help, and the community and the business owners are a lot better off because of that. So we are working with Highlands Diversified, the Alvarado group, who is building the 120 lot subdivision over on Corcoran and Kern. And if you've been out there to that area, you might have noticed all the heavy equipment and the work that's going on there to grade that property and to build those pads up so they can start building at least a few of their first homes. We did receive some floor plans that were submitted to Wildan for plan review, and they look really good. I think it's going to be something new in the community that our residents are really going to like, and it's just a welcome project that up to now the developers has been doing a really good job with. So we are really busy in terms of other development. We received an application for a new commercial center over on 33 and Kern area, just behind the smog shop, Mr. Campos' smog shop there. It's a little triangle parcel. So we're going through the CUP process, conditional use process right now for that. And I'd be happy to share more details once we have more. Right now, all we have is a site plan, and it includes a potential gas station, drive-through car wash, drive-through restaurant, and some other commercial space there. So really looking forward to seeing that project come to fruition. There's an application also in the works for a new apartment complex over at 7th and Mendocino. And then the Amigo Market is moving forward with their plans to build a new store at the site of the beverage hut, the former beverage hut, which would be a welcome site to have a new store there on that little triangle piece downtown. We are seeing a lot of progress with the health clinic. As you know, they're expanding their facility over on 2nd and Kings. And they're moving really fast, and they're hoping to have something open by the end of summer, middle of August, I think is what they're shooting for. So we received some updated plans on that for the second phase of that project. So we're working with them to approve those. We did send out an RFQ for our active transportation project for the engineering portion to help us design our crosswalks, help us design our traffic calming measures, the beacons, and some of those the speed radar signs that will help us manage the traffic there for the safety of our pedestrians crossing Skyline. We are in the process of applying for a grant in the amount of $65,000. That's basically an extension of the money, the $160,000 that we've already been awarded from Housing and Community Development to implement measures that will streamline the permitting process for affordable housing. And so what we plan to do with that LEAP grant, those LEAP grant funds, is to basically make it easier for us to meet with developers remotely to kind of complement our permitting software that we're going to be implementing here by the end of the year. And especially now with the current situation where we're actually being forced to meet remotely in a lot of cases with potential developers, I think it's important for us to have the technology, the hardware, and the space to be able to do that, to look at plans on a screen, to be able to speak, and be heard without the interference of poor hardware. So I think that's what we're going to be including in the grant proposal, to buy actual really good equipment to be able to facilitate those meetings. And that's for both the upstairs and the downstairs conference rooms in City Hall. I mentioned the census efforts. The county is still doing some work on that. I think at the city of Avenal, we've kind of slowed down on that necessarily just because we haven't been able to do any in-person outreach. So once we get the green light to start kind of knocking on more doors, we'll continue to do that. But Avenal as a community has been doing pretty good with their self-response rate at 51.1 as of last week. Let's see. I had a really good conversation today with Angie Dow from KCAPTA and a representative from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. As you know, we're always looking for alternative transit options to serve our community. We have unmet transit needs, and right now is a really good opportunity as KCAPTA is developing their 5-year transportation development plan. And so I've been in close contact with Angie, and she's been really good about reaching out and trying to coordinate and brainstorm ideas where we can think outside the box, where when federal funds are dropping or budgets are being really crunched because of the pandemic, it's even more crucial to find alternative forms of serving the community and getting them where they need to go, whether that's to medical facilities, to job interviews. With the unemployment rate being so high at the moment, it's even more critical. So we're being pretty active on that. And that's pretty much all I have. Are there any questions?
Comments?
I have a comment. I have a really nice award. Would you like to speak on that to share with the council?
Of course. Thank you, Melissa, for reminding me about that. I almost forgot. I would have loved to have been there to present the award to the council. It's an award that we received in recognition of the fitness court that the city council funded. We got the award for site design. So the committee that reviewed all the fitness courts that were installed last year decided that ours was the best designed out of all of them. And I think this was a project that involved a lot of people, not just community development, but public works, the city council, the city manager, basically everyone at the city. Community activities, Sheila and Anna and all of our ambassadors, I think are well deserving of this award. And I hope that the council feels really proud about obtaining this, because it is a project that it was a labor of love, and it took a lot of work and some money to get there. But Scott has shared with me that there are people calling to find out when that fitness court is going to be open, because they want to start using it again. So it's really great to hear that, and thank you to the council for your support. And I hope that that award is a good representation of the support that you've given.
Real quick, on this transportation development plan, just on this, during these days that it's very hot, I've seen people standing by the bus stops, waiting for the bus, more so on San Joaquin Street, and there is no shade at all for them. Would this be part of the transportation plan to ask for a shaded area for?
It could be, yeah. It's something I could bring up with Angie and see, what kind of plans they have for capital improvements, which I think that would fall under, as opposed to operations budget. I know they split those up, but let me bring that up with Angie and see what we can do for those bus stops on Skyline and San Joaquin. And thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to Avenal Police Department. Chief.
Good evening again. I just wanted to bring a few cases to your attention for the May 2020 monthly report. The officers discovered a gunshot victim at the Hillcrest Travel Plaza, which is located just on the other side of the hill. The victim had been shot in the back, but had rather minor injuries for that gunshot wound location. The shooting happened in the city of Kalinga, but they wouldn't send anybody over to attend to their victim. So Senior Officer Oliver spent a considerable amount of time out there helping the victim and located the bullet in the victim's car. So we documented the report and sent it over to Huron PD for follow-up. So we're really appreciative of Richard Oliver taking the extra steps on that. Officer Tyler Stride and his canine partner Gunner made a pretty amazing arrest. Last month, they ended up finding about a pound of methamphetamine at a residence. And like I noted in the monthly report, that's a significant amount of narcotics for a small city like ours. So when you take that kind of product off the street, you'll see a significant difference amongst the community. So if you see Gunner driving down the road, give him a wave, tell him good job. And it's Stride as well, I guess. He's part of it too, but Gunner did a lot of work on that. We always give Stride a bad time about that. Everybody's here to see Gunner Stride. That's what we always tell them. So, unfortunately, we did have our first homicide in nearly 2 years during the month of May. Tragic incident. His stepson allegedly stabbed his stepfather to death and was pronounced deceased at the scene. Our hearts really go out to the family who lost, a father, a stepfather, a husband, and then a son or a brother that night. It was just tragic. We don't like doing that as well. So first homicide in about 2 years, and we still haven't had a gang homicide in 4 years. So we're very proud of that as well. Um, we unfortunately we also investigated a lot of child molest investigations during the month of May. Made several DUI arrests and several domestic violence incidents as well. So we participated in the high school graduation ceremony as best we could. During the actual day, they gave the diplomas to the students, and then later on in June, we participated in the actual graduation parade that was sponsored by Rotary, I believe. So very busy month, and it's kind of hasn't gotten any slower this month. So I'd like to thank my staff for the excellent work they do day in, day out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Comments? Okay. And Officer Oliver? Officer Oliver, how's he doing?
What's that?
Officer Oliver, how's he doing?
Oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know if everybody knows, but he was involved in a motorcycle crash on Saturday morning, headed home from work. Vehicle pulled out in front of him there at 30th. He's doing well. I talked to him today. He's home. He's been home since Tuesday, but he was in the hospital for several days, and broken leg, broken wrist, and just you gotta, if you know Oliver if you know Oliver at all, he's already talking about when he wants to come back to work light duty. So I thought, hey, just get better first, and we'll have a spot for you when you get back. So he's doing really well. We've organized, or Stephanie Storm has organized a meal delivery service for him through our staff. We've volunteered to take food to him every other day, so he won't have to cook for a couple weeks, which is he'll probably like our food better than his own food. So he's doing good. Thank you for asking.
Okay. So we're moving on to 7B, special presentations, none. So we go on to 8, public comment, announcements, and unscheduled appearances. Ms. Angie?
Any person may directly address the city council at this time on any item on the agenda or any other items of interest of the public that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the city council successor agency. State law prohibits any member of the city council agency from commenting or acting on matters are not on the agenda. 3 minutes are allowed per person. And I have something that came into my office that I would like to read as a public comment. And it is from a gentleman, Miguel Fasto. I would like to ask the mayor, why is the Avenal police not wearing masks when out in the public enforcing mask wearing by the people? I see too many Facebook posts of the police with other people and nobody is wearing a mask. I go to the store like Amigo Market and nobody's wearing a mask or telling people where to wear masks. Why? Are the signs all over town, but nobody is listening? Even city workers around town do not wear masks or are telling us not to wear masks then. Police are wasting time on Facebook not doing anything, and city Facebooks don't say anything about wearing masks either. Nobody does their job. Please educate the people to wear masks to protect me and you. Please have police do their job and enforce wearing masks. I have an illness and do not want to catch COVID-19. I know many people who are upset that nobody does anything. I would be happy to meet with the mayor to explain more.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Hi, this is Veronica Geary. I just wanted to make a quick comment. First off, I just wanted to commend Anthony for all the efforts that they've made in order to get the meetings out for the public, as far as using social media avenues and having Zoom. But there's still something missing, and that's the community can't be fully involved. There's still a lot of people that don't have social media, that still don't know how to use maybe Zoom. And I really think that that after seeing the meeting that was held with Pablo and Lupe, and they had the way they did, they kept the social distancing and everything. I really think that maybe that should be something that you as council should consider, having that as an option. Maybe, you know, so many people can attend in person, and they have to maybe sign up before, you know, maybe there's a survey that they have to take prior to entering. I don't know, but there's still a lot of topics that the community has brought before your attention. You know, way before the first of the year. And not once have I ever seen any of this on the agenda. Nothing has ever been brought up. It's like it's kind of been swept under the rug. And it's that big, you know, landfill right here that people are concerned. We're worried about COVID. Yes, I understand, but we're also, you know, there's still a lot of breathing issues. And if somebody with already having, you know, asthma or any kind of other ailment due to breathing problems and then gets COVID, what do you think is going to happen? So there's still issues that do need to be brought to before the community, and I really hope that you guys will start maybe addressing these issues, putting them on the agenda, or at least talking about them. And I think that's all I got to say. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Facebook, phones, or? Okay, thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. So we're moving on to item number 9, public hearings. We have a few. 9A, consider proposed City of Avenal fiscal year 2020-2021 city budget, fees and charges. Staff.
Tonight is the date and also the time noticed for the annual fiscal year, or excuse me, for the proposed fiscal year 2020-21 city budget. We have provided the City Council with the most updated budget. This evening, there were changes made as recently as this morning to our general fund, but again, we have provided the latest edition. And the budget is available to the community upon request. We'll be happy to provide them with a copy. Please contact Angie Ortiz, who's the city clerk at City Hall, and she will work with Don Perkins to provide a copy to you. Just a small presentation. The budget as a whole and the anticipated revenues are based on the best estimates, if all goes well, for the coming fiscal year. The note of caution is that we are not certain to what extent the city finances will be affected by COVID-19 in the long term. Just a few examples of our areas of concern are we are not certain if or how much in property tax will be affected and how that will affect our bottom line general fund. We anticipate there will be a delay in our sales tax. We're not certain for how long. A delay in our street funds. We're already seeing the impact to the water fund due to the crisis, and we've yet to see clearly how AB 998 relating to water billing policies and procedures for turning on and off services for non-payment will be affected. We also do not know when community events and rentals of our city facilities will reopen, and even though it brings in very little revenue, it still affects our bottom line general fund. In order to keep spending down and balance the budget, many departments answered the call when they were requested to decrease the budget by as much as 10% this year, and that includes your city council. One large hit that we did not anticipate was a $90,000 increase in the cost of water. And for those that have sat on council and for those learning about, how budgets work, and mostly the water fund, it's one of our larger funds. There is a component in the true cost of water that increased $90,000 this year. And our concern is that our water fund isn't covering as much as we would like our expenses. And that is a concern, and that is costing more to produce water. We have 2 water plants to provide water to the city and to the prison. So that was definitely unanticipated. So our water costs going from $300,000 a year to $390,000. So that was a big hit for us. On a more positive note, and as Mr. Santillan pointed out, there is a lot of activity going on. We have grants. There's new interest in development within the community. We have a new residential development, and the groundwork is being done. Receiving new requests for site plan reviews, conditional use permits, which is showing that there is definitely interest in building within our community, and that helps us with our bottom line. If we don't have the finances, we cannot provide the level of service to our community or continue providing the level of service. I would like to state that as proposed in the budget that is before the City Council, our revenue estimated for fiscal year 2021, all funds is $22,420,518, and expenditures are $21,542,693. At this time, all departments and funds are balanced. We are not going into the new fiscal year with any departments or funds based on the budget that has been provided to council. There are no funds in the red, nor with any type of negative balance. It has been a challenge because we are dealing with a crisis that's going on now. We're still bouncing back from revenues that we lost in the early, in 2011 and 2012. We have lost several $1 million, not for anything the city has done. It's just based on the economics in town, our oil fields, landfill revenue, and the dissolution of our RDA agency, which that in itself was $1.3 million. So we are still suffering from the loss, but the city is doing well, stable. I have to say, each department, you have a very great council that's very conservative in their budgets, the outlook on the budget, and also in how the city funds are spent. So we appreciate that. We really appreciate that leadership. I do want to give a big thank you to the city council and to city staff for their time and patience to the budget process. There was so much going on with the COVID-19 crisis, and trying to get to the budget, it was almost a little overwhelming, but everyone came together. We got through the review process, the drafting process, and the review process, and I want to thank everyone for that. It takes a lot of time, energy, and a lot of research to get a budget in place. A good budget, a budget that's a working budget. And again, a budget, like anything, such as a general plan, it's what you think is going to happen during that fiscal year. So we can only guess, give our best guess as to what we think will happen. So getting the budget to this point was quite a challenge, but I think everyone that was involved, that's all city staff, to our administrative services director, who I don't know how many nights she stayed late trying to get the numbers to work, finding issues that needed to be addressed. We went forward with that. And again, for council to take the time to meet with us and review the budget, ask their questions, and understanding that we're going forward into this new year with some uncertainties, that being the new fiscal year. And due to that, the uncertainties going forward, staff is recommending the city council adopt operating budgets. An operating budget is that it would allow staff to have, or the city to have, a budget in place as of July 1st, which we're required to have. But it covers payroll, it covers operating expenses until a fiscal year budget is approved, that being a final budget. What we would like to do and recommend is that staff would monitor the financials and provide updated information over the next couple of months to the council, bring the budget back possibly within the first quarter, and review and see where we are as far as the budget goes, how far, exactly where our funds are coming from. Are they coming in as we had thought, or are there areas that we need to look at to amend? And at that point where council feels that they're comfortable going forward, then the staff would be recommending at that time to go ahead and adopt a final budget. But I don't believe that we're at that point because there are a few questions. Our recommendation is that the city council, the public hearing to take public comments be opened, and that the public hearing be continued to the July 9th, 2020 city council meeting, and that the council consider adopting operating budgets, resolutions for the city, successor agency, RDA, and the Public Financing Authority. And I would like to point out that there were areas from the last time that the council reviewed the budget. There were a couple of items. That one item being in our general fund, in our revenues, there was a question regarding, there's a 20% set aside of revenue, which actually helps offset and increase that Mid-Valley requested in 2008, 2009, that the revenues from the landfill are actually covering. And at that time, it was $132,000. The cost now is around $174,000. What we had is we had two expenses. We saw the revenue coming in, but we had two expenses, one being in the council budget and one being a transfer into the refuse account. And that's how we pay the fees to our waste hauler. So with that correction being made, it actually put our general fund into the black of $75,151. Dawn, I want to thank you for that. She did a great job once we realized what was going on, and she was able to get that taken care of and added to the budget for printing. The one other item that there was a question about, any revenues, specifically, it was line item 45190, the carryover prior years. There was a duplication in that one line item, but unfortunately, when we were reviewing the revenues, I could not remember exactly what each revenue was that totaled that amount. And at that point, it was, I believe, about $500,000. We're actually at $615,581, but it does list all the different revenue sources. So I wanted to make that clear and point out that has been done. The one other area which has to do with the correction to the general fund, to the revenues regarding the 20% set aside to help our community pay for their refuse bill. It increased, or there is a surplus in our refuse fund, which is a 16.2. And we believe it's the result of the double expenditures showing within our general fund. We believe there probably is a credit that will be due back to the general fund, and I wanted to point that out. And that is on page 91. I'm sorry, I should have stated that. That is your refuse fund. That's how, where we pay our contract, our refuse contract to Mid-Valley Disposal. So we will address that now that we've identified the issue with actually two expenses being paid out of the general fund. And those are the areas I wanted to cover with council. If you have any questions, please let me know. But it looks better than it did when we looked at the budget a couple of weeks ago. So we're truly happy about that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Anything that I can answer? Otherwise, everything else is basically has stayed the same, but I wanted to point those areas out to you.
Welcome. This time I would like to make a recommendation of $5,000 for the senior of Avenal for, say, trips, activities, or other miscellaneous items.
Is there a specific department or
Just
through the
for
city
Avenal
council?
seniors.
Okay, just to add a $500 or $5,000
Yes.
expenditure line item?
Correct.
And that would be to help support senior activities
Civil
within the
activity
city
trips,
itself?
miscellaneous items.
Okay. Okay.
Wasn't that item going to be discussed on this meeting? I believe that we had made a comment on the last meeting about the $5,000 allocation to that program. On the previous council meeting, didn't we agree to talk about it?
It was brought up in the previous meeting.
During the study session, I believe, wasn't it brought up at the last workshop? I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
Mhm. And we're, not a problem, we can add it. There is absolutely no problem with doing that. If, within the motion that the council makes, if they wanted to make an amendment. that's
I'm
no
sorry, are
problem.
we opened on public hearing or?
We're still
No,
answering
we're
questions.
still-
Sorry.
Not yet on that. So would you need a second for that?
When we look at the adoption of the operating budget, that's
Okay.
something that you could add as a motion,
Okay,
okay?
all right,
But we would need to open the public hearing first if
very good.
there are no other questions.
Okay.
We're happy to do that.
All right, so at this moment, we'll open up public hearing for this item. Anybody who would want to comment? Anyone on Facebook or phone?
Hello?
Yes.
Can somebody hear me?
Okay.
Is anybody hearing? Okay, my question is, why are some letters not being read about the budget?
I didn't know what she said.
Oh, it's the letter that Mrs. Aguirre that.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Asking why some comments are not being read.
It's Veronica, her letter.
No.
I have to know why.
May I ask who's speaking? Just because I'm not sure who. Is this the 559-469-3184 number?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what was your comment, please, again?
My comment was that I noticed some letters that were sent in regarding the budget were not being read. I was wondering what the reason was for that.
It's on the back. There was one, excuse me. This is Veronica?
Or could you identify yourself if you don't
Is it
mind? Sorry.
Oh, okay, okay. There was one letter, and it is included in the council packet, and it was, it's from Veronica Aguirre. I'll be happy to read it, but it was included, and it is a public document. It is, to whom it may concern, I'm writing, excuse me, this letter in regards to the City of Avenal budget. I have attended a number of meetings and have openly participated in discussions regarding concerns over funds. It has been made very clear that the City of Avenal relies on revenues made from the Avenal landfill, regardless of any concerns violating public nuisances such as odor or, more importantly, health. There have been a number of people who have done their own research on how the city funds are being allocated and have shared it with the public. Based on what I have gathered, I would like to recommend that until any type of compromise with the public pertaining to such concerns, the City of Avenal not allocate any of the funds to payroll that isn't.
May I interrupt, please? There was one from Chris Mendoza, and that one was not read. It was not Veronica. I am not sure. No, a Chris Mendoza sent one.
What's your name? If I need your name, please. Can you hear me?
Don't we need the name of the person? I said, don't we need the name of all the people for
Yeah,
Public.
so this is Mike Schulte, if I can just weigh in for a moment. Under public comment, you do need the name and the address of the individuals. They don't have to be a citizen of the city of Avenal, but they do need to give you their name and address, whether they're by phone or Zoom or in attendance. And as far as letters go, if you've provided the letter to the council in the public packet, you don't need to read it. So they're just weighing in on a couple issues.
From a Chris Mendoza. Angie, have you received anything? Have any of the council received a letter?
I'm not sure if they're referring to the letter from the Heal Group. That's the only one I can think of.
Did that one refer to the budget, though?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Right, I haven't received anything.
Or would you mind resending that if you know, so it can be included on the next meeting? Whatever the letter was.
Veronica,
If they're on Zoom, they
That's
can
not
send a
Veronica.
comment there and I can bring it up right away or we can email it or.
Are they still on the line?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
okay.
hello there number.
Okay.
We'll be happy if you have that letter, if you could email it to us within the next 2 minutes. We would be more than happy to share it.
And we can
Or
note
include it in the comments in
Right,
the
we
Zoom
can-
box.
We can include in the record
Yes.
a letter which we do not have, or to my knowledge, have not received, but we'd be happy to include it, a reference in the record, not a problem.
Is that something you could do? Do we still have you on the line? They're still on, they're still here.
But we do need a name
That too.
for the record.
Well, I will write my email in the chat box if you would like to email it, and if we receive it in the next few minutes, we will be more than happy to share it.
Yeah, so again, this is Mike Schulte. I'll just weigh in. The council so public comment period is an opportunity for people to publicly comment, and if the council wants to move on, there certainly enough time has been provided. So, and I hate to be harsh or brash, but the requirements have certainly been met.
So if we receive that letter, it will be displayed as we proceed. If not, it'll be in the next city council packet so that we can acknowledge that. Thank you. So at this moment, we will close public hearing. And now, we need a motion to adopt to continue public hearing and adopt the 2020-21 operating budget.
If we could also, yes, if council would consider continuing the public hearing, increasing the city council's budget under miscellaneous $5,000 for a community senior program, for that to include the entire community, and then consider adopting the 3 resolutions, which would be for the city funds, specifically for the successor agency and the RDA obligation fund, and also for the public financing authority.
Very good. So we need a motion.
I support move.
Okay, we have first. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have first and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilman Preciado.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Chimuli.
Yes.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye. Okay, very good. 5-0. Adopted.
So the successor agency Okay, so that would be
Okay.
resolution 2020-26, 2020-01 PFA, and 2020-01 for successor agency RDA. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all very much that we were able to get this far. Appreciate it this year.
Just for clarification, so it's an adoption of an operating budget, right? This is not like a final budget.
That is
No,
correct.
not
Until
the final
next
budget
meeting.
would be presented as the final budget to council. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
We don't have it on the agenda.
Yes, it is on here. It's an E.
Oh, they're out of order?
Oh, no.
No,
Let's see. I
it's
know
not on the
I've seen
agenda.
it.
Not on the
CAOA.
Well, we
It's-
will, since we're continuing the public hearing and it isn't on the agenda, in continuing the public hearing, we can consider it at the next meeting.
See, the resolution is here.
Yeah,
CAOA.
But it's not on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Okay, very
Okay,
good.
thank you. We will do that. Apologize for the confusion.
Okay, so we move on to item 9D, consider zoning ordinance to consider changes to the Avenal zoning ordinance, proposed changes to the Avenal zoning ordinance 9.79.01, 979.02, and 9.79.10.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is an item that staff has been working on for some time at the direction of both the City Council and the Planning Commission.
Long time.
As you all may be aware, we have had issues with residents parking their RVs and trailers in residential streets for a lot longer than is allowed under the existing zoning ordinance and municipal code. And so we were tasked with coming up with a better way of enforcing new rules and coming up with new rules so that that issue can be addressed. And we presented to the Planning Commission last month these proposed changes that are now in front of you that we believe would alleviate a lot of the problems or most of the problems that we've had. Most of it has been in terms of enforcement. I know in the past the police department has typically been the department that would generally be able to cite vehicles if they're parked for too long on public streets. But now one of the changes that we're proposing here, and I'll get into all of the changes, is to allow code enforcement to give them the ability to also cite and to tow, which is not something that previously they were comfortable doing based on the language in the zoning ordinance. So I just wanted to walk through each of the items that we're recommending. In the staff report, in the discussion section, we're proposing to institute a 1,000 foot requirement where if you're parked for 72 hours or more within a spot on a city street, you will be required to move that vehicle outside of a 1,000 foot radius from that site, and not be allowed to bring it back for up to 7 days, 168 hours. We also added a new definition for RV, recreational vehicle, and we also added a definition for trailer, and we expanded a definition for. We actually added another definition for original parking site to be able to allow us to enforce that language. What we also are proposing is for signs to be placed at all city roadway entrances. That includes State Route 269 on both ends of town, at the different entrances along State Route 33, so that it is required to have to post the language that would allow the city code enforcement and police department to tow vehicles. So that is an expense that we're proposing, that the Planning Commission has proposed that the City Council adopt in the budget. And so we did include that $10,000 allocation in the community development budget to be able to purchase these signs and install them. I don't believe it'll cost the full $10,000, but we wanted to make sure that there was ample amount of funds in the budget for that. So we would still be able to give citations to the code enforcement department, which would be our normal code enforcement administrative citations, starting at $50,000, $100, or excuse me, $50, $100, and $150. Yeah, basically we would also have a public information campaign where we would hand out flyers, which I believe were also included in the package here, to letting people know about the new rules, the new regulations, and about the requirements that the city is expecting for RV and trailer and commercial truck owners. So that's basically the gist of it. We are recommending that the council open the public hearing to accept comments on the city's proposed changes to the zoning ordinance, chapter 9.79, and also by motion introduce the proposed changes to the Avenal zoning ordinance and waive the first reading. Are there any questions?
Fernando? Okay, no questions. All right, so at this time, we're going to open up public hearing on this Avenal zoning ordinance changes. Anybody who would want to comment? Any phone calls? Tony? No?
I don't see any activity on the Zoom side, Humberto?
There's nothing on Facebook side, but it's not on the second way.
Okay. We're good, we'll wait.
Are we missing a page? The second page of Fernando's letter.
No comments? Okay, very good. Then we'll be closing the public hearing. So we need a motion to introduce the proposed changes to the Avenal zoning ordinance and waive the first reading. Anybody who would like to make the first motion?
There it is. Where'd you find that page?
That's there, Mrs. Woolley. Recommendations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's farther down, or farther in the report, I believe.
Yeah, okay, it's buried.
There you go. So we need a motion to introduce the proposed changes to the Avenal zoning ordinance and waive the first reading.
I'll so move.
Okay, we have first. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Okay, first and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Hernandez,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Yes.
Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye. Okay. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, senor. Okay, so moving on to item 9E, which is consider public hearing to discuss proposed changes to the 2016 Community Development Block Grant Award, 16-CDBG 111333.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I discussed this item in my department update earlier, But this is part of an effort on behalf of staff to try to obtain additional funding to keep the momentum going with the community center project. We have a really nice building built, which I've included photos of it in the packet. But we've made a request to the state for an additional $600,000, which we feel would allow us to get to the point where we can actually open up the basketball court side of the community center building. And that includes adding the interior middle slab that has underground plumbing, which is required. Also to be able to provide entrance to the front door, from the front door of the building. And then also the electrical work that's going to need to be done, and some mechanical work inside the building that also needs to be done. So the state has requested that we change the scope, officially change the scope of our grant, which was originally for $1.5 million for this building, to add that additional budget. We've actually made a couple of additional requests since we were awarded to bring the budget up to about $1.7 million, almost $1.8 million. So this would be another $600,000 on top of those budget amendments that we've requested in the past. What we're requesting from the state is for their permission to reduce the scope to just include the basketball court, so that we can provide a benefit to the community, to the beneficiaries that were originally targeted with this project. And as you can see in the staff report and in the resolution that's attached, we've listed very clearly what the additional funding would be used for. And once we submit this to the state, they can make a determination whether they would be able to give us the additional money to our existing grant in order to make this this feasible. So if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Fernando on this item? Okay. No questions? All right. So we'll be opening public hearing at this moment for the
Let's all make the motion.
first. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, very good. First and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Hernandez,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilman Preciado,
Yes.
Mayor Protem Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye. Okay. Very good.
That would be resolution 2020-27,
2020 test.
correct?
So much.
Okay.
That's
Good job, senor.
Thank you.
Okay, so we move on to item number 10, old business. Consider extending local emergency declared on March 24th, 2020.
as we have done since the local emergency was declared on March 24th, it's brought back to council at each city council meeting. Even though I believe it was extended for 42 days at the last city council meeting on the 11th, the staff would request that council approve extending the local emergency due to the fact that the virus and pandemic still exists. And that would be 21 days plus another 21 days, 42 days, which would take us well into the August 13th meeting, I believe.
Questions on this? No? If not, we need a motion to extend the local emergency.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to extend the local emergency declaration for the period of 21 days additional.
It would actually 42 days total.
Yes, sir.
It's the
42.
21 plus the 21. I know it's a little
Okay,
confusing.
All right.
Correction,
Thank you.
for 42 days.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, first and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilman Preciado.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Woolley.
Aye.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
very good. So we move on to item 11, new business. Consider approval of early action planning, LEAP grant application. Who is
Yes,
taking?
thank you, Mayor. I pretty much covered this in some detail during my department update, so I'll give you just a summary. We are requesting from the state $55,000 from a non-competitive grant that is being allocated to communities throughout California based on the grant amount is actually based on our population. So what we're planning to do with those funds is to be able to make improvements to City Hall in our conference room that would allow us to meet more effectively with developers and people seeking building permits through basically a teleconference basis. And so this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is an extension of our previous grant from SB2 that included improvements to our permitting software or the acquisition of permitting software. So if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Okay, so we need a motion to adopt this resolution.
28?
Yes.
I will make that motion.
Okay, we have first. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, first and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilman Preciado.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Woolley.
Aye.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sion. 11B, consider fiscal year 2020/2021 appropriations limit.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's our annual time to consider the fiscal year appropriations limit. And what this is a adjustment based on population for the and the per capita personal income and population adjustment factor for our revenues coming in, and the that it's a calculation that I do every year, and it's based on the prior years, and then we look at what the revenues for property tax and business licenses, sales tax that comes in to see if we've reached that limit. And as far as I know, in the history of the city of Avenal, we've never reached the appropriations limit to where we needed to be worried about that. Currently, for the coming year, we are under the limit by $923,559.82, And we recommend that the appropriations limit be approved by resolution.
Okay, questions on this item? If not, we need a motion to approve by resolution.
We'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-29.
Okay, there's first, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, first, second, roll call, please.
Councilman Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez.
Aye.
Councilman Preciado.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Woolley.
Aye.
Mayor Ovalle.
Aye, 5-0. Very good. So we move on to item number 12, correspondence, announcements, and closing comments. Any correspondence?
Not at this time.
Very good. Closing comments, Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, I just want to advise our community to continue using the face mask and continue practicing spacing. And I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. It's not going to be the same, but we still have to celebrate our independence.
Thanks, yeah. Mr. Ramirez, closing comments?
Would it be appropriate during closing comment to follow up on the revision of the analysis that we're making on the police department expenditure, or is this not an item that can be?
You can comment on whatever your feelings are as far as that.
Okay. Was there any corrections made to the previous analysis?
What I understood that the council wanted is the crime rates of the different communities to be added. And we have the statistics, we don't have the rate yet. I received 6 of the reports in today from the chief. So it would be available for you for the July 9th meeting.
Okay, and would I be able to distribute something to council information?
I'm sorry?
Would I be able to distribute to council some information?
Yeah, that's fine. Once it's distributed, it becomes public documents.
Okay,
But
so
that's fine.
am I able to go ahead and?
Thanks, yeah.
And Mr. Alvaro, my apologies that I am, you're not able to see this report, but I'll be happy to read it out loud so members of the community as well as you understand. As you know, I have addressed the city and the council regarding a concern for overspending on the end of the police department. And basically, what this report that I created shows is the per capita expenditure, in which I averaged 8 cities: Huron, Lindsay, Exeter, Kerman, Orange Cove, Kalinga, Lemoore, and Tehachapi. Per capita expenditure of Huron, $224.09, of Lindsay, $228.41, Exeter, $263.26, Kerman, $256.86, Orange Cove, $178.81, Kalinga, our neighbor city, $196.36, Lemoore, $217.63, and Tehachapi, it's higher by $309.08. So, the purpose of this was just to reflect on whether we are overspending on the police department or not. So, I did the per capita expenditure divided by 8 cities, and the average of 8 cities on a per capita expenditure for the police department turns out to be $234.31. When I look at the allocation for Avenal, we're at $325.81. Last year, it was $361.62. And, just for purpose of showing the overspending, I allocated the Fresno, which has a budget amount of $201 million and a population of 530,000 people. We're spending, it's only by $20 that we are basically away from Fresno. $380 for Fresno and $361 last year in Avenal. So Cutting this short, doing the average per capita of 8 cities times the population of Avenal, I came to the conclusion of we're overspending $833,000 on the police department. So, Councilman Hernandez is not here at the moment, but I would like to see if council would consider to have a study session for purposes of evaluating our expenditures on that end.
Let me ask Michael, city attorney.
Yes, I am here.
What is your comment on that? During closing comments, are we able to do that?
Well, so not to usurp what Melissa had said, but I probably should have. I disagree that now is the appropriate time. I think any member of the public or council member can add things to an agenda. And I don't think that report or discussion, I think there was, during the budget or any other time would be appropriate for staff to weigh in if requested. But I'm not sure I completely understand the issue, but just from procedural standpoint, I don't think it's appropriate to take any action on this right now. Even setting a study session, I think all of the time period for public comment is passed, and I don't think that this was necessarily a staff issue per se. And so procedurally, I would say that I think the best thing to do if you're going to follow the right procedure for this is to put it on the next agenda as a discussion item at best, and or put it on as a future agenda item to discuss this, not to hold a study session or create that, because that is an actual action. And I don't think you can take any action at this point in the meeting during closing comments. I hope that addresses what you're asking.
What I wanted to address is basically whichever ways is to proceed, whether it be a study session, an item on the agenda for discussion. You tell me which one is the best way to go about this, so we. On the previous budget, it had been inquired and reports were going to be corrected, where they were not provided, so I'm providing them to council now. I want to see what the most efficient way and correct way would be to discuss this as a council.
Clarification, the only reason that the information wasn't provided tonight, I have it right here, is that I didn't have the crime statistic that I understood council had wanted. So I just wanted to make that clear. I believe it could be added to a future agenda. I think that's what I understood from the attorney. So
yeah, I think you could add this to a future agenda, but I don't think you can take any action or even really call it anything other than adding an action item to a future agenda. I would limit anything to that.
To add that on the agenda. For this, you said the right words. I'm not familiar with how to.
Okay. All right, so.
We could bring that back to the July 9th meeting as an item for discussion. It'd be okay.
All right. Mr. Preciado, closing comments?
Yes, I would like to ask the attorney, so, it seems like every time we ask for an item to be placed on the agenda, it seems like we cannot find the right time to do it. I don't see, when we go through the agenda, there's not an item that specifically says this is the time for council member to request an item to be placed on the agenda. So it seems like we have requested at different occasions an item to be placed on the agenda, and it doesn't happen. So if there's consensus of council, why it's not placed on the agenda? Can you guide us and tell us when is the proper time to do it?
Yeah, so this is Mike Schulte. I'll weigh in on that. I think probably the appropriate thing to do, I mean, certainly within the agenda at any point in time, the whoever's preparing the agenda or the city council can call for, items to be added to a future agenda. What some other cities will do is just add another line item. And so you have a line item for old business, a line item for new business, and a line item for future business. So if the council wanted to, they could simply add a line item for future business that's just essentially a discussion item. There won't be anything under it. Or, you could add it and say, well, we want to add, but at a council meeting, then they could call the item of future business, and council members can add items to the future agenda. And then there's already a process in place, unless I'm mistaken, for like the public to add things and whatnot. So if you just are talking about the agenda and making sure that it's addressed at each meeting, I would just suggest adding right after new business, future agenda items for council members. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, in that case, I would like to request staff to place an additional item line, so we, as council, can request an item to be placed on the agenda.
Policy has been, for as long as I know, it doesn't mean it can't change, is that the mayor can ask that an item be placed, the mayor pro tem and the majority of council. So if that's different, that's what we have, that's the policy that has guided us. I'm happy to do whatever council would like to do.
Okay, yes, then in that case, I would like to get consensus of council, because I don't feel it's justified that only the mayor or mayor pro tem can place an item on the agenda without having consensus of council. So I believe we need to study the bylaws regarding reorganization of council. We still haven't met and discussed that, and also we can discuss this procedure that you just mentioned, because I believe we need to be informed, and so we can take the proper steps to move forward and request items on the agenda and take action.
Is that your closing comment, Mr. Purcell?
Well, I want a response to my question.
So to the extent that the camera is being pointed at me, I will say that so it sounds like Melissa just described. So I had mentioned there's a process in place already for adding things to the agenda. I was aware of that, but I am also aware that there's nothing on the agenda stating future agenda items. And so when I initially addressed that earlier, that I would say that is something the council is at liberty to do, is to add to the agenda a future agenda item. But that would not change the policy that's in place for how to add things to the agenda. Or how to hear items. So and I'm unaware of this issue, but it sounds like Councilman Preciado, you're saying you want to have an agenda item added to review that issue, review the ability to add items to the agenda and other, I think you said bylaw issues. So I will say that the bylaws themselves, so there's a process for that within the bylaws themselves and within government code, and it's fairly technical. And I will say as much as I've been willing to, and not willing, that's probably the wrong word, but hopeful that I can advise the council tonight, I don't know that I'm prepared to advise the council on exactly the details of revising the bylaws or considering revisions to the bylaws. I just don't have the documents in front of me. I can say this, and I hope that this will be helpful. I'm happy to prepare what I think would be a fairly extensive understanding of the bylaws in this issue of adding things to the agenda, but particularly if you're going to make amendments to the bylaws, there's a real process for it, and it is you have to follow it to a T. And I'd be happy to prepare a memo for Melissa for consideration by the council. But that's really honestly the best I could do tonight. And I would honestly advise against even adding an agenda item to revise the bylaws if the council wanted, under the process that exists, to add an agenda item to have a staff presentation on the bylaws. I think that would be, and or a city attorney presentation on the bylaws and that process. I think that would be the best that we could do tonight. And again, I know I'm displeasing at least a number of people with this comment, but there's nothing really I can do about it right now. I just wasn't prepared for this discussion, and so I can only apologize.
Okay, then, yes, I would like to request a line item for future agenda items. And also, if you could prepare that document and present it to Melissa, and maybe we can review it and at least get informed what the bylaws are all about.
And again, I'm happy to prepare that, and I think that the the process that's in place for changing the agenda, I think that, so now back to my attorney hat, I would simply advise that I think this is closing comments, and so I don't know that action really is able to be taken, but can certainly, the council, through the process for adding things to the agenda, can certainly do that over this next couple of weeks. Adding things to the agenda doesn't have to be a motion or anything like that. It just needs to go through the process that's in writing and in place. So my short answer to that would be that however the process works, consider that adding that issue to the future agenda. And then I'll go ahead and talk with staff about a consideration of bylaws and how that all works.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So again, and not to belabor the point, I don't think any action should be taken on those closing comments.
So, are you done with your closing comments, Mr. Preciado?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Mrs. Woolley, closing comments?
I almost said I attended. I don't know how we say this nowadays. The CART meeting and KCAPTA and KCAG meetings yesterday by the phone.
Okay.
But CART is struggling with the governor's new ordinance, or whatever we call that, health directive or whatever, about wearing masks. They it puts the drivers in a real hard situation, because that makes them have to enforcement officers, which they aren't. But they will be reminding people to wear masks, asking people to make masks, but I don't believe they will be making people get off the bus without them, because then we have transportation and other issues. They are trying to purchase masks, but they have not found a supplier. If you could please send that information to Angie Dow. And the other thing they have purchased, and boy, they're expensive, is big plexiglass barriers between the driver and the people getting on. But it's kind of neat, because it's like a door that swings this way when people are getting on, and then after everyone's sitting, it'll swing this way, so the driver still has a clear view of everything while they're driving. So those will be coming in, and all the buses will be equipped with that. And then tomorrow I have a LEAP meeting. Fernando's already got money coming in, and we have only had, this will be our second meeting tomorrow.
Awesome.
So that's it.
All right, city manager, closing comments.
I wanted to inform council that the trees in front of City Hall they need to be taken down. Apparently they have met their useful life. I hate to see them go, but according to Robin Scott, there's some issues with them and they need to come down. So I'm not certain what will be planted, but hopefully something, because that, again, I just hate to see them go. My office is right by the trees and it helps it keep cool. Atmosphere nice. The July 9th, our study session, Mr. Farley, our city attorney, will be here to present the AB 1234 ethics training. We're required to have every 2 years. Angie, thank you for setting that up. I appreciate it. The City Hall and city departments are closed on Friday, July 3rd. It's the day the city actually observes Independence Day, even though Independence Day is on Saturday. There is no fireworks display or patriotic program this year. Sad to say that. The cost and people gathering, it probably wasn't a good mix this year. And the cost is a little much for our budget at this time. Sheila and Anna were looking at a program, trying to put something together within, all of the conditions, but hopefully next year we'll have something in place, hope to. The lobby at City Hall remains closed, but individuals, if they would like to obtain a business license or a yard sale permit, please call City Hall. An appointment can be arranged, and happy to meet with the community. The request that we have is that anyone that comes in the lobby is required to wear a mask. And if they do not have one, we'll be happy to provide one to them. The Alvarado Group, we're really happy to see that the dirt is moving on that project. I want to personally thank Tony and Lupe and Fernando for the great job you all have done through this whole crisis, and it's not over. So I want to thank you all personally. You've done a great job. And Don, again, thank you for your hard work on the budget. I know it's still a work in process, but we've certainly come a long way over the last month. And I thank council too for all your input and appreciate you. So that's all I have. I probably have more, but that's all I can remember in writing down. So thank you.
Since you're here, Ms. Dawn, closing comment?
I have none.
City clerk? I have none. All right. Well, you know what? I have had a chance to drive by that new recreation and the pavement and all that. It looks awesome. So that's great work, Fernando. Tony, Humberto, gracias, señores. Lupe, city staff, they're great. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, I do have one comment.
Okay.
I received a message from Miss Aguirre, and it's regarding, oh my God. Did you receive it? Did you receive it? Oh, okay, thank you, thank you.
Well, also, could you have this packet that you guys created sent to Mr. Miguel Fausto? Okay, just so that he can get some information, please.
What was that one? Okay.
Right, this was the letter that was provided to council at the last meeting. I didn't realize that it. No, it's a different one?
This is the letter that was being referred to.
Oh, I see.
Last time we were reading it.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
Okay, since we all got a copy, so we're good. Just acknowledge that
We'll
we have
acknowledge
received
it for the record.
Huh? Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
So we have received the letter from Heel, so thank you. And meeting adjourned.
That is the old
one. The report.
You're going to get writer's cramp. You got a lot of stuff to sign tonight.